What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Forgotten Jesus podcast. My name is Andrew Bolton, and we have Pastor Robbie Gallaty and Candace. I don't know how I didn't pick up on your name as Candace before last episode. Yep. During the break, we were talking about, connecting people, dating, all this stuff. We're not going to get into details of that. I just want you to know there's fun stuff happening between
Candy's a
between episodes
matching,
here. I know.
I like to be a matchmaker, but I have no history of success.
No.
Oh,
I
well,
haven't had a couple that I've actually introduced yet that has made
That's
it.
very promising for all those.
You know what I'm saying?
So if you ever hear Candy Cote, you say, hey, I got a guy for you
thanks,
or a girl for you.
Yeah, I'm good.
You're like, know where that leads. Yeah, know where that leads.
I feel like I have good ideas, but they don't know. Sometimes they just don't work out.
Well, we worked out, babe.
I know. Somebody said
one and done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All you need is one good idea.
I had one
I
blind
know,
date.
that's true.
I had
Only
one
one.
blind date.
One blind preaching date.
Preaching date, whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Andrew, I'm noticing you're
right.
matching. Like your hat matches your shirt.
Yeah.
Do you have your shoes match? Let's see.
No, I don't. I don't.
That's
I know,
Jordan
I'm sorry.
Nike 101.
Yeah, I
You missed
apologize.
that class,
No,
but-
typically it is freezing in this room,
Okay.
so I
That
wore a
is
hoodie,
true.
but it's not today.
It's not today.
And the Candy came in sweating,
I
which
know,
is
she's
very
sweating.
odd.
Look at her.
No, I'm not now, but
No, look at that forehead.
No,
No,
that forehead's
now I'm
sweating.
glowing.
You're going to get kicked under the table. You will get kicked under the
This
table.
is called a glow.
Yeah, glowing. Glowing, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. it's
Candy's
got-
got big news, too.
Please no.
Okay, all right, moving on. All right.
We announced
We
we're
would not be
pregnant.
glowing right
Speaking
The podcast is
of
over.
miracles. All right.
The third Messianic Miracle. Here we go. All right, my favorite one of all, by the way. Not to discount the other two, because they're pretty powerful. But this is the healing of the man born blind. And I'm telling you, so many nuggets
Well,
here.
let's do it.
Let's get right
Dive
into
in.
it. John chapter 9, verse 1, if you're following along. John chapter 9, verse 1. And this was considered the miracle of all miracles. Besides raising the dead, we always say raising the dead is one, but that's kind of a fourth one. But these are the three they were looking for. And this one is in a class all by itself, okay? So this one they believed that Jesus did a lot of miracles of healing people who were blind, Bartimaeus, others.
Right.
But we don't know if they were born blind. We assume they weren't because maybe they went blind. A lot of people would
lost
go
their
blind.
sight,
Yeah, different things, eye conditions. But for a person to be born blind was a different category. Why? Why do you think?
Well,
Think about
so
it.
if somebody went blind and Jesus healed them, he was restoring what they once had. Somebody born blind, he was giving them something that had never existed.
Yes. And it could be a situation where they don't even have
Eyeballs.
Yes. I mean,
I
no.
didn't know you were actually going to say that. That'd be crazy.
No, think about that.
My grandfather only had one eye, and he always had this glass eye that he'd like take out and like mess
How
with kids.
did he only have one eye?
He wasn't born with one. He lost it. He was loading a bull in a trailer and whipping it with a stick, and the stick broke and poked his eye out. I know.
that's
So I don't run with scissors either. I'm just saying, like, it's family trauma.
Wow.
So he had a glass eye.
Yeah, and he would always take it out and.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, that's not this guy, but
That
this
is
guy,
not
like,
this
he
guy.
didn't have anything, let's assume, okay? So John chapter 9, he's born blind. And so they believed that you have to create something out of nothing.
Sorry, I'm still laughing. My grandfather had dementia, and it just made for a really funny childhood.
Oh, my
with glass eye.
I'm still thinking about it, too,
You
actually.
hide his eye on him, and then he's can't
Oh,
find.
he was
he's
just
trying to find an eye with one eye.
Hi.
Wait, you're trying to find an eye with one eye.
He
You know,
set his
that's
eye on my
tough.
shoulder. I'm keeping an eye on you. You know what I'm saying? Okay, sorry.
Did you actually watch him take it in and out? Because I don't know if I
Oh
could
yeah,
handle
no, he
that.
kept it in like a box,
Oh gosh, okay.
and he could pop it in and out. And
He needed a
I
miracle.
feel like I
yeah,
would throw up.
he was always
Candy's getting
winking,
nauseous. Okay, Candy's getting nauseous.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Moving on.
glowing. Candy's
We might have
glowing.
to start
I'm
over
glowing
because
and I'm nauseous.
this first five is. Oh my gosh. Okay.
right.
Please let's move on.
All right,
okay.
sorry, man
No,
born
that's good.
blind.
That's. This guy had no eyes, probably, or eyeballs, maybe. Who knows? Okay, so we get into the chapter, and right away we're approached or we're confronted with Pharisaical theology that has been prevalent in the culture where Jesus is going to correct right out the gate. So let's read John chapter 9, verse 1.
Okay.
And I want to show you right away Jesus corrects their faulty theology. Okay.
9:1.
Yeah.
As he was passing by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, Jesus answered. This came about so that God's works might be displayed in him. We must do the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work.
Okay, let's just stop there because we got enough. Okay,
Yeah.
so they come on the scenes and they're walking with Jesus,
Yeah.
and they look over and they ask Jesus a question. What is the question? Or they ask him two questions.
Why is he being punished, basically?
Yeah. Why is he suffering? Why is he blind? Okay.
Yeah, who sinned?
Either what? Who sinned?
Himself or his parents?
He either himself or his parents. Now, that was a common belief in the culture,
Right.
based on a couple Old Testament scriptures. They believed that, and I believe this is true. This could be true. So it's not saying it wasn't true because the Word of God talks about it. They believed a theology where there was generational curses or generational sins that would come upon someone. They get that from Exodus 34:6, which explains that the generational sins of the father can go down to the what?
The son.
The third or fourth
Fourth
generation. Okay, so you have that. The rabbis also believed that a person could be punished for what they did. Psalm 89:30. If his children forsake, or if the children forsake God's law and do not walk according to the rules, if they violate God's statutes and do not keep his commandments, then he will punish their transgression with the rod and iniquity with stripes. So there was a punishment for sin. They believe that. I mean, the Bible talks about that. When you sin, there's punishment for sin. We know that, right? Built in.
Yeah.
But what they formulated was there was a punishment that could go down to the generation based on the previous generation where the person in the womb could actually sin, which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
So not only did they have this theology where you have generational curses for sin, but they also had a theology built where the child, the infant, the newborn in the womb could sin, which is why they say.
Like by doing what?
Okay, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to read it to you. Yeah. And I have a quote here from the. But they actually believe that the child, which is why they said, who sinned, the parents or this person? Okay, and here's what they said. In Pharisaical Judaism, a child could, in fact, they said, commit a sin inside the mother's womb. During one 9-month development, a child could demonstrate animosity or anger toward his mother and could kick his mother in the womb as he was coming out or before he came out, and therefore suffer the consequences of his own sin. And so they had taken this generational curse or generational punishment for sin to the nth degree. And here's what they said. They basically assumed any sickness had to do with sin. Wow. Any sickness. Wow. Whether you have a mental challenge, whether you have a physical disease, if you get cancer, if you get leprosy, they just automatically part and parcel wrote you off. He sinned. Either he sinned or his parents sinned. And Jesus now is going to correct their faulty theology. Look what he says in verse 3. Read what he says in verse 3.
Neither this man nor his parents sinned.
Yes.
Jesus answered.
So what does Jesus say?
He says,
you need
it's not because they did anything wrong.
Yeah, you need to rework your theology. Sickness is a natural result of the fall.
Fallen,
Is
yeah.
what he said. We live in a fallen world. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's free of nobody, there's only one perfect, right? So diseases and sickness, they're everywhere. And it's not necessarily the result of sin. Now, I will say, sin does bring sickness and death.
Right.
I mean, ask any alcoholic
consequences.
Right.
or
Yeah.
addict like I was. There is a physical, and it may not be physical death, but you live in a death-like existence when you're addicted to a sin. But it doesn't mean you're being punished for your sin. And Jesus actually says, no, it's just the opposite. This man's sin is not punishment.
Yeah.
Actually, this man was born for a purpose, because this man is going to be a trophy of God's grace.
Yeah.
His sin is actually the platform whereby I'm going to display the glory of God coming to his life. Okay, so go to verse 4, and Jesus is going to show us a little insight as to why this miracle is so powerful. Okay, Jesus said we must do the works the day.
We must do the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work.
Okay, now hold on. Now remember, we're reading in pictures here. What is our mind picturing when we see night and day? What do we picture?
Light and dark.
Light and darkness. Okay, let's apply it to the man.
Okay.
That's so cool.
So
what is the man? What kind of?
We're in a time in the world where there's no street lights.
True.
So at night it's pitch black.
Right.
Other than fires.
Right. True. So they get
So
really, it gets really dark.
If he was to regain his sight at night, it may not be a big difference.
Okay, but it's deeper. Yes, true, but it's deeper than that.
Okay.
Here's why it's deeper.
It's dark because he's never been able to see, right?
It's dark because he lives in darkness. His whole life is
That's
darkness.
where I was heading. Yeah.
Yeah. No, his whole life's darkness.
Yeah.
Okay. So here,
He's never known what it's like to have light.
He's never seen
Yeah.
light. Never. His whole life is darkness. His whole existence. He's never experienced anything of light because he's perpetual in dark. Now watch this. Without giving the spoiler alert, we're giving it away. This healing of the physical man born blind is a visual picture of what it's like when Jesus saves your soul and redeems you from sin.
Ooh.
Okay, watch this.
Born blind. We're born into sin.
Yes. Okay. Now you're starting to see. You got to understand, when Jesus does miracles, when Jesus heals, I say this all the time, but boy, we got to be reminded, nothing is by happenstance. Nothing. So when Jesus is healing a physical, remember, he could have healed a million people, 10 million people. He didn't. He healed a handful. And when he heals, he's teaching a lesson. He's always teaching. So this man is not just the recipient of the grace of God. This man is a sermon illustration to teach biblical truth.
Wow. Yeah.
Right here, he's like, all right, boys, maybe he said that. All right, here's the deal. I'm going to show you what it's like to be born again. I'm going to show you in a very radical way what it's like to go from death to life. Better yet, what it's like to go from dark to light. Physically, this man's going to go from dark to light. Okay, so watch this. The very next thing Jesus says, as long as I'm in the world, I am
The light of the world.
Man, if you're listening, you know this. If you're born again, you know this. Remember when the lights came on in your life?
Oh, yeah.
You remember this?
Yeah.
And the thing about darkness is you get so accustomed to the darkness, you don't realize how dark it is until someone turns the lights on. You ever been there before?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, wow, this is really, wow, I was living in darkness. Or you don't know how deep you are in sin until you come out. You don't know how tired you are until you go away on a vacation. You're like, wow. You see what I'm saying? So the contrast here is unbelievable. So Jesus says to him, I am the light of the world. Keep reading, Candy. This is the most bizarre healing in all of Scripture, and I'm going to tell you why he does it so cool.
After he said these things, he spit on the ground, made some mud from the saliva, and spread the mud on his eyes. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he left and washed and came back seeing.
Boy, that's interesting. So much there, and the Bible just says he left, he washed, and he came back. I mean, just miraculous in that one sentence. Now watch this. Jesus is going to make spitball mud pies. It's pretty crazy, right? Think of the picture here. The guy can't see, okay? He can't see anything Jesus is doing, by the way. And all of a sudden he hears,
I don't know if it was
maybe
like
not
that.
like that.
Well, the guy could hear. He just couldn't see.
He could hear, but he couldn't
heard
see.
that.
But he hears that.
He
Yeah,
knows something's going on.
I don't know how Jesus did it. But he got...
I don't think Jesus is hocking a loogie.
It
says
says
he did.
spit
It
on
says
the
he
ground.
He spit, not that he hocked a loogie.
So it's probably more.
Okay. I don't know how much spit it takes to make
one drop for him.
Make a saliva mud pile, but apparently it takes enough to. So he makes these little mud pies. He makes these little balls, I guess. And then all of a sudden,
That takes a lot of spit.
No, I know
I'm
it
just saying.
You ever tried to put mud into a ball? I mean, yeah, it takes a lot of spit. So, Jesus, this may be a miracle in and of itself. The amount of
This is
spit it took to make the mud
fifth
pie
Messianic Miracle right now.
was a spitball.
Yeah.
Right. So, no, Jesus creates enough to make a cake.
Yeah.
Okay, with spit, and he takes the dirt of the ground, forms in it. Now, put yourself in the shoes of the disciples. Okay, you guys are hanging out back, and you're like, okay, Jesus, Matthew, what's going on? Is he really spitting in the ground? Wait a minute, he's rolling up a ball. What is he? They're thinking this is real time. They're like, what is he doing? They have no clue what he's doing. Wait a minute. Is he really putting it in his eyes? Yep, putting it in the guy's eye. Like, what is he doing? Is he laughing, making fun of it? What is he doing? And then all of a sudden, he puts it in the guy's eyes, okay? And now this guy is a spectacle, okay? Not only is he blind, not only has he not seen, but Jesus is going to send him on an adventure with a treasure map he can't see to go walk through the city at the highest festival, one of the highest attended. You got to remember, I mean, there's so much here. What festival are they at right now? Do you know where Jesus sends this man into the crowd? Okay, we know later in the text, but guess what festival they're at? The Feast of Tabernacles. The miracle takes place during the Feast of Tabernacles, which we know is one of the 3 pilgrimage festivals
So
where
everybody's there.
everybody is there. So Jesus is going to send this man, picture it, as a walking billboard through Main Street of Disney World mid-July during the summer, and he's telling him to make it from the entrance to the mine train.
Oh,
If you've ever been
gosh.
there. That's basically what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he can't see.
And he can't
And
see.
he's got mud on his face. And he's unclean. Okay? It would be like driving, through there with your horn blasting and lights. Look at me, I'm a billboard, right? I'm a
Yeah.
billboard. So he's going to send him through there. Now, here's what's interesting. The question we're going to ask and answer before we're done. And here's the big one. Why in the world would Jesus do this? Why would he spend time gathering mud? Why would he spit in the ground? Why would he put it in his eye? And why would he send him away? Why do you think he's doing this? Okay, what do you think? Why not just heal the guy? Like, hey, he didn't even have to touch the guy. Could have.
Yeah.
You're done. Wow, I could see. And he would have been thankful, and he would have still gone to the priest. But why in the world does Jesus do this? Why does he? And I'll give you a clue. It has to do with the mud and the ground
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
and
so,
the sovereignty of God.
like, we from dust to dust. We come from dust. We turn into dust again. Like, I think.
Ooh, that's interesting. I never
I think
thought
the
about that.
people would have seen every single thing he's doing, and we have to really dive in and look for what he's doing. But they would have picked up on it sooner.
Yeah. Like it should have been a callback to the garden where he created Adam and Eve from the dust.
To the garden?
Well, yeah, like he's creating.
He's creating something that never existed.
That's exactly what it is. Look at her, dude. How did she get that one,
I'm like,
Vivian?
he's about to
Tag
make
team.
me
How
feel
did
stupid.
she get? Even Ben didn't know about that one. Well, Ben even. Robert knew, but
Robert has the notes.
that is exactly, by the way, Robert doesn't have these notes. I will say that's a good insight because I think that is exactly what's happening. Watch how cool this is. Remember, Jesus, people always, and I can go back to this for 10,000 times, but this is an easy one to dismantle. People always say, Jesus never said he was God.
Yeah.
That one's like a softball now because it's so ridiculous.
He didn't say it like we would say it. He said it like
He would say it.
an
He
Eastern
says it all the
perspective.
time.
Oh, yeah.
We're just reading with a Western American pastor perspective. We need to read it with a first century Jewish rabbi Hebraic perspective, and we see it all over the place.
Right.
Listen, the Jews killed him because of this. They knew he was God. He was claiming to be God, but he just didn't say it like we did. Okay, this is one of the examples right here of Jesus showing the disciples he's God because they knew this. They knew
Yeah.
the connections here, and we see it as well. Okay, watch this. Think of the scenario. The man has no ability. Let's say he has eyeballs, but they don't work. But he has nothing to return to. So this is not a revival of eyesight because revival means to restore what was lost. Okay, that's not revival. This is a spiritual, physical transplant of an eye
Yeah.
and the ability to see. Sight. Okay, so Jesus has to create something out of what?
Nothing.
Nothing. He has to create existence. The technical term is ex nihilo. You ever heard this? He
Oh, yeah.
creates ex nihilo. The reason God is the only non-created being. No one created God. God created everyone. And the fact that he can't be God if he was created, just sidebar. The fact that he's not created, I know it's hard for our mind to think this, but the fact that he's not a created being means he is God. If he was created, he's not God. Okay, so the reality is he has to create out of nothing. Go back to the garden. Watch this. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Watch what it says, how God creates man. Now remember, God does this, not Jesus. They know him as a man, but watch what happens here. Genesis
7.
chapter 2, verse 7. Yeah.
Then the Lord God formed the man out of the dust from the ground and breathed the breath of life into his nostrils, and the man became a living being.
A living being. Now watch this. The word dust or ground, did you know the word Adamah is ground, Adamah, ground or earth, and Adam is man. Did you know this in Hebrew? Adamah, earth, ground. Adam man. So God creates Adam out of Adamah, the ground, okay? He creates something out of nothing. So putting the pieces together, if God created man and woman out of the dust or the dirt of the earth out of nothing, and he breathes his spirit upon them and gives them life, watch what Jesus, the dominoes would have fallen, blowing them away. They watch this that when they get it. I don't know if they get it right away, but they will get it. The man can't see. He has no faculties to see. Jesus puts mud in his eyes. He spits on it, and immediately they think, okay, wait a minute, this sounds very familiar. God did this himself. In the Old Testament, he took dirt, he breathed, and the man came alive. Jesus, who is claimed to be God, takes dirt, he takes a man, he spits, the man comes, in a sense, alive, and he can see again. And the next thing he says to the man is what? So he left. It says, go to the pool of Siloam. He left, and he came back seeing. Now, here's the question. Why in the world does he send him to the pool of Siloam? Why not have him just come here and or just,
Who was at the pool? Who was at this pool?
Ooh.
Well, didn't he have to he would have to go all the way through town so everybody would be seeing him, right?
Yes.
Go into this pool.
And people
what is
recognize
he
this
doing?
guy. Hey, that's the blind guy.
Right.
Ooh, that's good.
With no eyeballs.
It says his neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit begging?"
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Now you're onto it. Siloam means what in Greek? Do you know what it means?
Sent.
Yes, because how do you know that?
Because it's in my Bible.
Because it's in the Bible. That's good. Okay, Siloam means sent.
Andrew said I am smart. Remember?
Yes.
She's pretty
Exactly.
smart.
Using the resources she
You're
has.
very observant, I will say that. But Jesus decides, now this is one instance. Remember, we just talked about this last time. Jesus sometimes says, don't tell. Other times he says, tell. This is an example where Jesus tells on himself. Because Jesus knows sending a blind man with mud caked on his eye sockets through the crowd, walking down Main Street at the height of the festival, every single person's going to say, we know this guy.
Yeah.
Was that Robbie, the former drug addict? Man, I know that guy. He was homeless, whatever.
Yeah.
We know this guy. And word immediately gets back to what? The delegation of investigation. And now we're going to see next week, you're not going to want to miss this, the showdown between the religious leaders and the boy or the man who's now can see, but also his parents.
Right.
And they're going to do something to this man right here, which really makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, because we're going to learn next week there were 3 forms of excommunication for the nation. 3 forms where they could progressively cut you off. And we're going to see which one they do to this man who was the recipient of a good thing. Why would you not think healing a man was a good thing?
Yeah.
And they take a good thing, just like with Jesus calling him the devil, and make it a bad thing. And I think this is it where Jesus says, it's done.
Oh,
it's done for you
Well,
guys.
Pastor, I cannot wait to dive into that. Thank you for those insights. I have never unpacked this particular passage in that way. And that's something we hope that you get out of this podcast, that you begin to see the connections and the deeper meanings and from their perspective when it was written. So, Pastor, thank you for that. Candy, thank you for all your insight. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, share it with a friend. Leave us a review anywhere you listen to podcasts, and of course, connect with us.
We're on the road to
media.
500 reviews. We're getting close.
Are we?
We're on the road to,
You
in my
could
mind.
be
In my
the
mind.
500th review right
Could we
now.
find
Think
out
about
who
that.
the 500th one is and give away some stuff?
Yeah, sure. We'll do that.
Fun.
So
I don't
it
even
could
think
be
we're
you.
at 400 yet, but we probably need to start there. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But
no,
anyway.
go to 500. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Pastor, thanks for interrupting me. And we'll see you on the next episode.